The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. On a Sabbath, Jesus went to dine at the home of one of the leading Pharisees, and the people there were observing him carefully. He told a parable to those who had been invited, noticing how they were choosing the places of honor at the table. When you are invited by someone to a wedding banquet, do not recline at table in the place of honor. A more distinguished guest than you may have been invited by him, and the host, who invited both of you, may approach you and say, "Give your place to this man." And then you would proceed with embarrassment to take the lowest place. Rather, when you are invited, go and take the lowest place, so that when the host comes to you, he may say, "My friend, move up to a higher position." Then you will enjoy the esteem of your companions at the table. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but the one who humbles himself will be exalted. Then he said to the host who invited him, "When you hold a lunch or a dinner, do not invite your friends or your brothers or your relatives or your wealthy neighbors, in case they may invite you back and you have repayment. Rather, when you hold a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind. Blessed indeed will you be because of their inability to repay you, for you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous." The Gospel of the Lord.
Disciples take the lowest place. I just lit up when I saw that title on the screen today. I was thinking of a poem I had read. It said, "Spirit, seek lowness like a stream." Isn't that beautiful? Spirit, find your way. Seek lowness like a stream. And so we're called to always seek that lowest place. And the truth is, there is no lowest place, because there is no highest place. People made that up. There's no such thing as cool, right? There's no such thing as cool. You have to spend billions of dollars every year on billboards and advertisement and all kinds of stuff just to get people to buy into it in the first place. So they'll buy this shirt or this car or these shoes, this coffee, whatever it is. And so we create that lie that there are cool things and not cool things, and we all buy into it. You know what? There's no such thing as cool, and every second grader can tell you who's cool and who's not. By second grade, they already know, don't they? And they already know who's a 10, who's a 9, who's an 8, who's a 7, who's a 6, and on down. God forbid you're a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you know what? It works as math. If you're a 7, God forbid you talk to a 3, because you can lose cool. If a 7 talks to a 3, you might become a 6 or a 5. And so a 7's always try to talk to 8s, because you can gain cool too if you know a 9 or a 10. Isn't that how it works? Everyone knows that's how it works. And it's not even true. It doesn't even exist. And yet, if we're standing in line at Starbucks and someone cuts in front of us, we're ready to fight. Why? We just feel like somebody treated us like we were a 3, and we're a 5. Don't treat me like a 3. I'm not a nobody. Why do we do that? And so the Pharisees, Jesus goes to the home of some of the more prominent Pharisees. That just means they were cool. Okay? He went to the home of the cool Pharisees, and he hung out with 3s, 2s, and 1s. And so the Bible is really nice. It says, we translated it nice, it says they were watching him. What the Bible says originally is they were scrutinizing him. they were scrutinizing him, because if soon as he did anything, they were all over it, and he was going to suffer for it. And so this idea of who's cool and who's not, you guys probably know it in your own groups, right? Yeah, you're probably not cool enough to talk to certain people in certain groups that you go to, even now, even today. And God forbid you don't allow certain people at your table or to talk to them. I was at Powers once, and a friend of mine was a youth minister, and she came to visit her kids, and she didn't know that Mark Metz was cool. He was the quarterback. And she took her totally not cool kids, and she just brought them over to him and said, "Hey, this is so-and-so. She's new to the school. Would you welcome her?" And he just lit right up. He said, "Yeah, come sit at my table." And he talked to her, and he interacted with her, and I thought, wow, what a neat community over at Powers, where, yeah, they'll have a clique or two, but you can get in and out of them. You can move, someone who can move from their clique and eat lunch with someone who's at a cooler clique. And it was a community where the Holy Spirit was kind of at work. At least at that time, I really was proud of that. There's a joke, if you allow me to tell a little joke. There was a man who went into a bar. The bar was at the top of the building. It was a tall building. And he's having drinks and things like that. And the second man comes in. And after a while, the second man said, "What are you drinking?" And the first man said, I'm actually, what I'm drinking is a magic potion is what it's called." And the guy said, "What in the world is a magic potion?" He said, "Watch this." And he takes a drink, and he walks over to the edge of the building, jumps off, flies around the building, doing a couple somersaults along the way, comes back to the bar, and the second man said, "I'll have what he's having." And so he drinks it down. He goes to the edge of the building, jumps off, and falls until he hits the sidewalk. And the bartender said to the first man, "When you've had too much to drink, you're a real jerk, Superman." Yeah. The Pharisees thought they were Superman, and they really were real jerks because of it. They didn't think they were Superman because they could fly around a building. They thought they were Superman because they were way cooler than everybody else. They just, in every way, were just way more cooler. I was reading today, and remember Alex Haley? He wrote that book, Roots, and then they did that TV miniseries. It was really, really popular for us who were older, I guess. Some of you weren't even born when that came out. But it really was a popular book. So you all remember Alex Haley, right, in that series, Roots? He was doing an interview, and he said that he was in the office of a friend who had a picture of a fence post with a turtle on it. What? A fence post with a turtle on it. And what it said was, if you see a turtle on a fence post, you know it didn't get there by itself. Isn't that right? Yeah, and that's how we are too. We act like we're cool, but we owe everything we are, everything we have, to just so many people. Our parents for the way they raised us, certain teachers, certain pastors, certain key people in our life helped put us on that fence post. And that's what Jesus is telling his disciples. Seek the lowest place. Because if you're on a fence post, God put you there. Other people helped put you there. Others helped us get there. Isn't that true? Don't we feel like that for those of us who really know that we're not cool? There's no such thing as cool. The Pharisees are being total jerks by acting like they're cool. And so I was watching this video at the start. I wasn't part of making it. And it said something like, if you want, do you want to be just free of all that? You want to be free of not worrying about anyone else, ever again, what they think of you, then seek the lowest place. That's kind of cool. So there's this airplane, And two guys sitting next to each other. One's a professor who thinks he's cool, so he's a jerk, right? And one's a old farmer who's just trying to get a nap. He's really, really tired. And so the professor says to the farmer, he says, let's play a game. And the farmer says, I'd rather not. I'm really tired. I just want to sleep. And the professor, who's full of himself, says, it's a really fun game. I'll ask you a question, and if you don't know the answer, you have to pay me $5. And then you ask me a question, and if I don't know, I'll pay you $500. And so it piqued the farmer's interest. And he's like, okay, I'll play. And so the professor says, okay, I'll go first. How far is the moon from us, from the earth? And the farmer thought about it for just a second or two, reaches into his pocket, pulls out a 5, without saying anything, just gives the $5 to the professor. And the professor says, okay, now your turn, ask me a question. And he says, what goes up a hill with 3 legs and comes down with 4? And the professor's like, oh my gosh. And he can't think. He's on his laptop, talking to friends, trying to get some of his friends to help him with the answer. A half hour goes by. In the meantime, the farmer's napping. He's getting his nap. Finally, after a half hour, the professor is all embarrassed, and he pulls out $500 and said, I don't know the answer. Here's your $500. And the farmer took it, and he goes back to sleep. And the professor's like, wait a minute. What goes up a hill with 3 legs and comes down with 4? And the farmer reaches into his pocket, pulls out a 5, and gives it to the professor. Yeah, we all love it when someone so cool gets theirs, don't we? And there's a reason for that. Jesus doesn't want us to act cool. When I was at Powers and when I was at parishes that had a school, a lot of times the penance that I would give to somebody was just that penance of go sit with somebody who's sitting alone. And the psalm response was wonderful, isn't it? God, what was it? God makes a home or makes a place for the poor. We can rejoice in God. He makes a place for the poor. Yeah, He makes a place for all of us. Every one of us. We are called to associate with the rich and the poor because there's no such thing as cool anyways. We don't know the difference. I'll close with a story about people like me, about a priest. He was young, he was in seminary, and he has just made a priest, and he really couldn't wait to get into the pulpit because he knew he was the best preacher ever. God's gift to the pulpit. And so he came in, walking in the procession, all full of himself, greeting everybody. Yeah, I'm here. You're about to get the best homily ever, that kind of attitude. And he's young, and he had his homily memorized, but when he got up to give it, his mind went blank. He totally forgot his homily, and it was a disaster. It was a total disaster, and the rest of the Mass was horrible. He was miserable. And so he was walking out with his head down, just feeling like the earth had been, just the world had ended. He's walking just dejected as he's going out, and a little old lady said, you know, if you had come in the way you're going out, you could have gone out the way you came in. Right? Yeah. When you come to the table, always come humble. Always take the lowest place. Always sit by those who are sitting alone. Always make a home for the poor. Be that person that God's called us to be, and truly humble ourselves, and God will raise us up. This is our faith lived out in the most basic way.